in the news for September 12th, 2025. I am Brett Burney from appsandlaw.com.
And this is Jeff Richardson from iPhone JD. It's the most wonderful time of the. I tell you, Brett, this
It's
has been such a week. Let me just have a little personal privilege
yeah.
here. First of
Okay,
all,
good.
this was one of the busiest weeks that I've had because as a litigator, I go to court a lot, especially appellate courts. But this week, I have been in court every single day this
Oh
week in
my.
a different
Okay.
case, which is why I'm wearing my tie.
Ouch.
But then on top of
Nice.
everything, Apple's got the announcement on Tuesday, which I
Yeah,
couldn't
just
do
that little
live
thing.
because I was arguing an appeal. And then, I wanted to do a full review on the Apple Watch, all the different Apple Watch models, a full review on the iPhone models. It has been
Which you
exhausting, but it's
did.
exciting. It's
Yeah.
exciting. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, I could tell. I know you now that you get excited, you get pumped up on this kind of stuff. I know it's been a tough week for you, but oh my goodness, what a nice announcement. Although I gotta say, I mean, they're I'm thrilled with so much, but I wish there was a little bit more. But let's start walking through some of this. If you go to the Apple events page, this is where it is. We're talking about the Apple event, a keynote that happened on Tuesday. I think it was just at an hour, wasn't it, Jeff? I mean, I
Hmm.
know you've watched it since then.
Yeah.
They didn't go over. I know that they had like the Steve Jobs place where people could go and touch all the phones, and I've seen several videos, of course, as I'm sure you have after. Um, a lot of what we expected and anticipated. There wasn't really a one more thing, which I was kind of hoping that they would kind of tag on to that. Even without that, though, I'm pretty happy with everything that was positioned. I feel like one of the biggest oversights or things that they skipped over was anything more about Apple Intelligence, anything AI. We can get to that in just a little bit. There were a couple of like little sparks or poofs of AI that were kind of thrown in some of the videos in here, but overall, I already have a very light pocketbook right now. Because I knew that I was going to pull the trigger on some of these things, and it's been great.
Yeah. I'll say this. I mean, you're right about the rumors. We had a good sense of what was coming out. But I will tell
Yeah,
you, look, the way I look at it is you weigh two things. It's nice to have surprise, don't get me wrong. But you know what's really nice? What's really nice is when Apple announces something cool that we want, that you can order it
yeah,
pretty much right
yeah.
away. And you
That's
can't have
true.
both of those, right? If they're going to have all these things ready to ship, then that means that they've been making them for a while, which means that
Great
somebody
point.
in the supply chain's got a leak, which means that Mark Gurman at Bloomberg has got his early leak. And so, I would prefer the world where when they announce something really cool and that I want it, we can get it right away if you decide to do so and decide not to hold off.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that's my take on that. And as for the one more thing, I always love a one more thing. I heard some people predict that the iPhone Air was going to be the one more thing. And because it was not much of a surprise, I'm really glad that Apple
Hmm.
did not do it. In fact, I really like the order of what Apple did it because Apple, we're going to talk about
Agreed.
this in a second, but the one thing that's a brand new type of product, it wasn't like they said this is far and beyond everything else. It's just something in their lineup that they sort of put between other things. So I thought it was interesting that way. So overall, I'm very happy about it. And there are some great products this week. So let's get into it.
The fall announcement is typically known as the iPhone announcement, right? This is when the new
Right.
iPhone comes up. But let's get to that in just a moment because the other two main products that were discussed, which both of you and I were looking forward to, let's go start with the AirPods Pro 3. Now, that's
Okay.
the Pro version, right? Because we have the AirPods 4, don't we? Like the regular 4. But this is
Hmm.
the AirPods Pro 3, which I have to say, just in the fact that I knew there was going to be an update, it had to be a little bit faster, a little bit more responsive. But boy, they packed in a couple of nice surprises in here. Not the least of which there is foam in the tips now, which is a little bit different. You get 5 different tip sizes in the package now. And there's a heart rate sensor that's in there. I don't know if you want to start there, but that kind
Yeah.
of blew me away. I did not know that they were going to be putting something like that inside it, but it makes sense now that I look at it.
The AirPods Pro are awesome. I love the noise cancellation. It's great. The AirPods Pro 2 came out 3 years ago this time. And so
Three
it's been a
years.
while. And
Wow.
when you think about
Okay.
the AirPods, I mean, I'm wearing mine right now, they are so
Me too.
incredibly you too. They are so incredibly popular. So many people have them that, of course, if they come out with a better version, people are going to be excited. And so when you think about what do you
Yeah.
want a new AirPods Pro to do, you want it to sound really good, right? And since noise cancellation has always been its hallmark feature, although of course you can get that now on the regular AirPods, at least a version of it, you want that to be better. And I don't know how you measure that, but Apple claims it's twice as good. So it'll hopefully be like even nicer when you're out and about and you can get a little more insulated from the outside world. So that's good. You want them to sound good. You want your music to sound good,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things that Apple said is that these sound even better than before. And again, we'll have to, see all the tests. And I've already heard some of the initial reviews from people who got a chance to wear them like for 45 minutes on Apple's campus on Tuesday. And they have been, good. Of course, it's not a perfect environment to listen to things. I've heard people say, for example, that there's more bass, but not more bass in like a traditional Beats way, just like a fuller sound. So that'll be interesting to see. And then the other thing about the AirPods is comfort, right? Because
Yes.
some
Right.
people don't like the original AirPod because it's sort of hard. Some people don't
Right.
like the AirPods Pro. My wife is an example. I got her a pair of AirPods Pro. In fact, the pair that I got her, it's the pair I'm holding right here because she tried them and they just didn't work for her ears. And she ended up going with the Beats Pro, which go over the ear, and she prefers that fit. And so, but
Right.
even for the AirPods Pro, although I love them, as you know, and we've talked about, I I've always felt like they could fit me better. And so I've tried third-party tips in the past. Some that I've tried have foam instead of rubber, and those were
Right.
okay. Some that I've tried, like the Comply foam tips, are just pure foam, and I wore
Comply. I
those for
remember
a
that.
while. As we sit here today, I'm actually back to the original Apple model, but I've gone back and forth. I mean, I've switched. And so now that Apple is recognizing maybe we can do better, maybe putting some foam inside of there is going to fit better. I understand that it's the actual AirPod is a little smaller and deeper in your ear, and you have, like you said, the 5 different tips. I can't wait to try it because
Me neither. Yeah.
mine are like 90% of what I want, which is certainly great. A 90% score is a good score. But like if this improvement gets them up to 95 or something, that'll be fantastic. So I'm really excited about those things. And then the heart rate sensor that you mentioned, my wife has that on the Beats Pro, so it's not a surprise that Apple brought that to this product.
Sure.
I
Right.
consider it unnecessary for me because I always wear my Apple Watch when I'm working out, and so that's going to check my heart rate, right? I don't need my AirPods to do it. I'm
I
sure there
know.
are
I
some
thought that.
people out there that
Yeah.
don't wear an Apple Watch, and so for them, if you don't wear your Apple Watch but you do have an iPhone with you, then sure, that's good for you. I don't think if it works like the Beats Pro, then I don't think the heart rate sensor will do anything if you're wearing an Apple Watch. It's going to default to the Apple Watch instead. But why
Okay.
not? Just because the feature's not for me doesn't mean it's a bad feature. So like those are the big marquee things. I'll mention a couple other
Yeah,
things that I
can I
think
just
you
I
go
just want to
ahead.
say quickly that that active noise cancellation, ANC, this is, some of the things that people have been seeing. I mean, I know Apple certainly has improved that from like the microphone that goes in it as well as the speaker, but you talked about the foam infused ear tips here with the AirPods Pro as comfort, and they're definitely comfort, but that is also sort of like a physical improvement, I
Sure,
think, for active
sure.
noise cancellation, Jeff. And I mean, that that just struck me as interesting because you and I have talked about this before. In fact, my wife has actually tried some of those Comply foam earplug, and I think she's also back to the original air tips as well. But when you take these AirPods out and you take the tip off, it's very flimsy, right? And I kind of like it. I mean, for me, I've never had a problem. I'm just one of those people that lucked out, I guess. But boy, I'm a little interested in seeing not just the foam from a comfort level, the fact that it might go in a little bit better. And the thing is, just like I would think, like a regular kind of a foam ear plug, that you could squish it in and it should kind of inflate a little bit, right? So that it could accommodate and maybe close out some of the noises too. If that is an improvement on that, I just want to say, like, that's brilliant. Like, it's not all foam. It looks like they just kind of infused it just a little bit in there. And I'm just going to be really interested to see how that goes. And apparently, now instead of the 3 different size tips that they gave you before, you have 5 now that you can try. And, I always try to encourage people, and this is only probably because of my own kind of insecurities, like, I got to have the same size on both. But you don't, right? You can have one ear has one size and the other ear has the other size. So I just think
Yeah.
it's great that they're accommodating a lot of folks that way. And I'm very excited about these.
It didn't even occur to me, Brett, that part of the improved noise cancellation could be from the foam infused ear
Hmm.
tips. So it might
Yeah.
not just be a comfort thing; it also might be a noise isolation thing. That's an interesting thought. The The case is actually, they say, about the same size, but one difference
Okay.
is that the current case on the back of it has that button that you press to
A
pair with
little
Bluetooth,
tiny, barely.
which
Yeah.
you don't really need to use for Apple products, but I use it for like my PC that I'm connected to right now as I talk to you.
Right.
So apparently the new version doesn't have that pairing button on the back. Instead, it's going to be like a touch thing on the front that if you hold your finger in there for like 2 or 3 seconds, it
Okay.
does pairing. So whatever. I said that the bud is a little bit deeper. It's in your ear.
Yeah.
I think those are the key things. So then I guess the other thing to talk about is
There is
live
one more thing
translate.
here.
Yeah, is the live
That is
translation.
the one more thing
Right.
for the AirPods here. This was a
And
little
what
crazy, not unexpected, but amazing.
Yeah, and what's nice about it is you don't have to upgrade. If you have an AirPods Pro 2, you're going to get this feature next week, just like the rest of
Nice.
us. So that is really, really nice. And some of the reviews that I've seen is like, for example, there was a review on Gizmodo that the person that tried it out right there on the campus, he was saying that the live translations were nearly instant. He said that the buds do a beamforming
Okay.
to hone in on the voice of the person that's talking to you. He says it may take a seconds to work, but it works pretty well. He said that initially it's going to work with 5 languages: English, French, German, Portuguese, and Spanish. But then by the
Okay.
end of this year, they're going to add Italian, Japanese, Korean, and Mandarin Chinese simplified. And so
Interesting.
the video on this is it's the dream that we would always hope for. It is like, I'm speaking my language, you're speaking Portuguese, and every time you talk about fraction of a second or so later, I'm hearing what the words are in my ear in my native tongue. And then if you're wearing AirPods Pro, likewise, you're doing it too. That is really cool. And the example that they showed of a person who was shopping somewhere in France, and
Yeah.
the vendor didn't have AirPods, but if you use your iPhone too, as you're speaking in English, it's at the same time writing out those words in French so that they can, this seems cool. I mean, you can be holistic
This
and
is
say it's
beyond
wonderful to
cool, Jeff.
bring the world
This
together.
is like
And
bionic.
we've talked about this forever. Douglas Adams talked about this in Hitchhiker Guides to the Galaxy with
Yes,
the Babelfish.
exactly.
Google has some of this same, everyone has it. One of the things that excites me the most, and this is not an original thought, I heard this on a podcast this week, is as exciting as it is to have this available starting next week, what I really love is it's now out there, which means this is version 1, which means it gets better, right?
Yeah,
And so in one
absolutely.
year, 2 year, five
Absolutely.
year, we're going to get to the point where as this technology improves over time, it's just going to become commonplace. It's going to be say like, oh, well, of course I have AirPods in my ear and I don't need to have a cord hanging down like I used to in the old days with my iPod.
Right.
Of course I
Right.
can have wireless. It's just going to be, well, of course I can talk with somebody and in different languages and we can, I mean, that is, so I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be really cool. And of course, it's always nice that you don't have to necessarily buy the new AirPods Pro
Right.
3. You can do it with your AirPods Pro 2 if you own those.
Well, that's it. To me, the improvements can come quickly or quicker because I think most of the improvements would be software based here, right? It's just processing the language. Now, there's something to be said that obviously if there's a better chip in there, it can maybe process a little bit faster. But to me, that just what you said, this is version 1, but I think the subsequent versions are going to mostly be a lot of software upgrades, and that to me
Mm-hmm.
gets excited because man, they could just throw those out quickly on some of this. I did see another story that depending on the countries you might be in, these may not work quite as much. And apparently, there's some EU regulations that they're going over. I like this little
Mm-hmm.
story I found on 9 to 5 Mac. If you're an American visiting Spain, you're all good. If you're a German visiting France, not going to work. German visiting the UK, yes. Spaniard visiting Brazil, yes. Spaniard visiting Germany, no. There's some EU things going on, like there always is between the EU and Apple, unfortunately, in some of this, but
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to throw that out. Now, to wrap this up quickly, this to me was the biggest AI spotlight of the whole presentation. I mean, there was a few other blips and beeps around the presentation, but this was the biggest drop I think from an Apple Intelligence aspect, even though arguably it may not be AI so much, but they barely just spent a little time on it. I mean, what was it, a minute and a half? They showed the lady buying the carnations, just like this picture here, and there was a conversation between two gentlemen at a table, both wearing AirPods 3 and translating in live, and that was it. And like I'm so excited and waiting. I haven't read that Gizmodo story yet, where people are actually trying it out, but I don't want to try it out and like testing it, like somebody to say "hola" to me. I want to go to a country and talk to actual native speakers and have it see how good it can be. And then to round that out, you can talk back in your own language, and the AirPods with your phone apparently will translate it back into their language, and then you can just show them the phone with the. That's a little bulky, I think, but I think, hey, I'll take it. I mean, this is beyond cool to me. This is pretty bionic in the way that it can happen here.
Yeah. The thing that you said about Apple Intelligence, I noticed that, you know how whenever Apple has a big announcement like this, of course, the technology press is going to talk about it. Some esteemed publications like iPhone JD will give their take on it. But this transforms, right? Like I saw general news publications talking about it, and I saw a headline Tuesday afternoon, Brett. I forget where it was from, but it was like Apple announces new iPhones with, all these Apple Intelligence things. I'm like, that's a headline you wrote
What?
before the event.
What?
Like, no,
Yeah, right.
no, that's not. No, I mean, yes, Apple Intelligence was there, but this was not like the past where Apple was, overly getting into Apple Intelligence and then having to pull it back.
Right.
So it's there.
Right.
So anyway, AirPods Pro are exciting. AirPods Pro 3 are
Oof,
very exciting. And since I wear them all the time,
I
I'm
know.
excited to try them out. It's good.
You know what? I think I'm gonna pull an audible here, and we're gonna, after every product, we're gonna talk about any purchases here, because just like
Ah.
you, to me, this is a product I literally wear every day. Whether I'm
Hmm.
just running because I want to listen to music while I run, I'm on a Zoom call, I'm using AirPods Pro. If
Hmm.
I'm just walking around, like if there's noise going on, the dog's barking, but I want to focus on what I'm doing on work, I put them in as I'm working, listening to music, and do into complete noise cancellation on there. I'm literally wearing these every day. Almost, again, they're becoming my bionic ears. And so I'm like, I had to. So these were available for pre-order, that I think maybe not even 20 minutes after the event, and I pulled the plug on this. I
Hmm.
did it. $249. And
And there's my order.
You're,
Says preparing
there's
to
your
ship.
order on the phone. So these were able to pre-order. Both of us pre-ordered this, and they are going to be delivered. I chose delivery
Me
on
too.
Friday, September 19th. Or
Yes.
you could pick it up in store if you wanted to do that, but I chose to have it
Hmm.
delivered. Okay, so both of us went ahead and pulled the trigger on that, which is interesting. AirPods Pro 3. We'll both have it and both report. Let's move on to a different product.
Okay.
Apple Watch,
Apple
which is
Watch.
actually three products in one. You did a fantastic job already going over and providing a whole review why lawyers will love the 2025 Apple Watch models. It doesn't have to be a lawyer, it just happens to be that's a big part of your audience, but I love your reviews because it can be for anybody. Here is the official reports from Apple. The Apple Watch Series 11, so that's like the base level. Well, I guess it could be like the normal level, the normal. There's the Apple Watch SE 3, which is the SE that's been out for a while. I guess that's kind of a lower level, as it were. Maybe that's the base level. I don't
The
even know
budget
really how
model.
to
Yeah.
explain this. Then finally, thank you, they announced the Apple Watch Ultra 3. Now, all of these watches get several things that they share in common, that they've got some great updates. Of course, everything is getting watchOS 26 on this as well, but some great other abilities to track everything. I'm pretty excited about these, although I got to be honest with you. If you have a Series 10 or you have an Ultra 2, I don't know if there was quite enough that I could go out and say for sure, Jeff, that you should upgrade. We'll come back to what I purchased in a moment, and you too as well. But great stuff. I mean, I'm just thrilled to see continuously Apple invests in the Apple Watch. They did a very good job, I thought, of approaching this from a health component, and a couple of the things we'll talk about in a moment here kind of reflect that. But I'm just thrilled to see that this continues to be a market that they invest in.
Yeah. Why don't we start with the Ultra 3? So
Oh,
like
really? Okay, you want to go all the way to the
let's start
top.
Ultra. 3 years, because I think this is the most exciting announcement.
I
Three
agree.
years ago, Apple announced the Ultra. And it was so exciting because it's like, wow, this is like the
It
super
was.
Apple Watch, right? This is the
Yeah.
version that
Yeah.
tons of battery life, you don't even think about it. And so many people were excited about it. You obviously were one of them. So many people bought them. So many people
Absolutely.
loved them. And they were so sturdy and durable. And you could knock it against a mountain as you're mountain climbing and it was, going to hold up. So the Ultra was good. So that was 3 years ago. 2 years ago, they updated that with the Ultra 2, which added a bunch of new features and stuff. And that was exciting. So then last year, a lot of people were like,
Two
okay,
years
yeah,
ago.
here we
Yeah.
go.
Right.
And then last year, there was no update. And so last year they did change the
Oh, there
color.
was.
But yeah, but
They just added a color. That's your
the black
update.
color. But otherwise, it was exactly the same. And so what that meant was that when Apple came out last year with the Apple Watch 10, which I'm wearing now and had lots of new features, there was a little bit
Yeah.
of non-parity because there were some brand new things brought to the Apple Watch 10, like the fact that they could reduce the bezel and get that screen size a little bit bigger. But because the Apple Watch Ultra 2 wasn't being updated, like it was still a year old technology. And so that's why I said in my review, like I feel like Apple has settled all debts because now with the Ultra Watch, with
Nice.
the Ultra 3, yeah, there's some new features in the 10, but they're bringing that Ultra 3 to where you would want it to be, and then going beyond. And so like the
Well put.
big thing
Yeah.
about the Ultra 3 is the battery life. When I was wearing an Apple Watch Ultra for a while last year,
Yep.
gosh, it was delightful. It was just it was like, oh my goodness, to just have so much battery life was amazing. And now it's going to be even better because what is it going up from 36 to 42 hours? And that's only six
Yes.
hours. But when you think about 6 hours, I mean, think about having like I've had
Incredible.
my Apple Watch all day yesterday. I'm wearing it again today. Now it's in the
Yeah.
afternoon and I'm running out of power. Nobody wants that. But if it's in the afternoon and it would have been running out power, but because I have the Ultra 3, it's going to take me 6 more hours until tonight. You're totally golden, right? So
Yeah.
that 6 hours can make a bit. And of course, these are all estimates. It's going to vary, one way or the other from actual use. So having that, the incredible battery life is just such a fantastic feature of the Ultra, and now it's even better. So like that
Yeah.
alone is going to make people really happy. And then there's also like the screen. Let's talk about that for a second. I really like the idea that my Series 10 takes that screen just about as far out as it can. And it always
Yeah.
struck me as bizarre when I looked at the Apple Watch 2 screen, and the same as the Apple Watch Ultra that you have. Both of those Ultra screens have that really big black line about them. And
They
it's
do.
not that it's not a big screen, because it is a big screen, but it just feels like wasted space. And so when you look at what you're showing on the screen right now, which is a mock-up that I found on the MacRumors forums, somebody sort of put one, these are from Apple's website. They just, one half of one watch on one side, one half the other side. You may look at that and think, oh, well, that's not, a huge difference. But the thing is, it's a little bit more at the top, it's a little bit more on the sides, a little bit more on the bottom.
Yeah.
And just with the bezel being smaller, I just think it's more pleasing to the eye. So again, I'm not going to tell you this is the only reason to upgrade because of the bigger screen,
Right.
but it's nice. It's nice. It's
Yeah.
definitely nice.
And they
Then of
made some
course,
improvements to that OLED screen. Like they talked quite a
mhm,
bit about it, and I saw some videos about it's better at an angle now, which I
yeah.
don't know that I necessarily had an issue with that, but they made some improvements there.
And it's noticeable because that's an example of a feature that I got last year on the Series 10.
Ah,
And
okay.
now the Apple Watch has it too. And it's actually really cool because
Oh,
I love having an Apple Watch that I can see the time without having
yes.
to flick my wrist and all this
Yes,
sort of stuff.
yes.
And
True,
I
true.
totally noticed the difference when I went from my prior model. When I went, because I was trying a 9 too, going from the 9 to the 10, like, I'm sort of sitting here at my desk and my watch is like, my arm is straight. And so I'm looking at the front of my watch at an angle, and I can very clearly see what time it is right now. It's no problem at all, even though it's a dim screen. But before, with the Series 9, it was a little bit more difficult to see. And so, and
Okay.
this is not, and it's not just a creature comfort. I mean, I don't want to exaggerate this too much, but like, how sometimes you're in a meeting with somebody and you want to see what time it is? Like, if you move your hand to like look, I mean,
Yeah, I know. They're
then
like,
everybody thinks you're the obnoxious guy that's like bored with the conversation. But if I don't have
right.
to move my wrist at all, and I can just kind of
Yeah,
glance and see it at the angle and see the time, it's like, okay, that's
that's a
good. I
good
can see what
point. I
time it is.
like it.
And
I
so
like
there
it.
actually is some functionality to it. So it's a nicer screen, and it's so anyway, that's really good. So I really like the screen feature. I think is going to be a good one. And the Ultra 3 can get also the brightness too. Like let's see. No, this is the
Yes,
Ultra 2 too. Your Ultra 1 can go up to 2000 nits. The
that's
Ultra
right.
2 went up to 3000 nits, and the Ultra 3 also
Boom.
goes to 3000 nits. And I'll tell you, when
Right.
you are outside on a bright New Orleans day with all that sun shining on
Big
you,
difference.
it makes a
Yeah.
difference. I mean, I can see my watch, my Series 10, but not the same way that it was when I had that Ultra on my wrist. When I had that 3000 nits, I'm like, oh my goodness, that is bright. So like if you're really an outdoor person, which is a perfect person for the Apple Watch Ultra because it's so durable and stuff like that, then you might really appreciate that. That's really good. And so then speaking about being an outdoor person, I'll go on and talk
Yeah.
about the satellite, but would you say something else?
No, that was it. That was
Yeah.
like, is the Apple Watch Ultra 3 the only one that got the satellite upgrades
Only
now?
Apple
Okay.
Watch model. No other Apple Watch can work with satellites
Wow.
except for the
Okay.
Ultra
Hello.
3. So
Okay.
again, and you're the hiker between the two of us, right? I just hike up and down the stairs in my house, but you actually do this for fun. You're a little crazy on that,
I
but I'm
do.
just kidding. See, of course, I love that you do that. But so you actually sometimes will find yourself, Brett, in the middle of nowhere. Now, again,
Indeed.
if you have,
Yes.
when I say middle of nowhere, I obviously just mean no cell phone signal. Now, if you have your iPhone with you, then you can do satellite. I know you can because you did that to me once. You were out hiking, I
That's
think, with
right.
your
We did.
son, and you
Yep.
went back, and it was really
Exactly.
fun to see how that feature worked. But if for some reason you didn't have your iPhone, or I mean, sometimes these Apple has these commercials. I mean, and I know the commercials are the extreme examples, but somebody who falls into the crevice on a cliff or something. I mean, you could totally imagine a situation where you could not conveniently get to your phone in an
Hmm.
emergency, like something you're going to call SOS, call 911. But you could get to your watch, right? And so as long as your watch could see the satellite and stuff and you can follow the directions, you could call for your help. So I mean, we hope that we never need to call for help with any device. But if you are in that situation, are you 100% sure that your iPhone's going to be easily accessible so that you can use it to communicate with the
Yeah.
satellite? I don't know. So it's just something where this is like an insurance policy. You're preparing for the worst. I mean, you don't have to use satellite on the watch just with emergencies. You can also use it to communicate with someone via text. And it's interesting that they only let you use that
Exactly.
feature if you have an active cellular contract that you're paying for. And I think the reason for that is if I'm walking around the city, Apple doesn't want me to not use my regular
Right.
cellular and have all the money on the satellites because Apple still doesn't charge you for the use of satellites. They keep saying they're going to do that one day, but right now, even if you have
Yep.
like the original Apple iPhone, was it the 15, I think, that had the satellite feature?
Oh, the
They just
14. Yeah.
announced that for
Yeah.
another year you can use that satellite feature for
I
free,
know.
which is
Which
nice. And
I
again,
just a quick
go
side note
ahead.
on that quickly. I just saw this story from Ben Lovejoy. He's like,
Hmm.
he is predicting why that's happened. And I kind of hadn't thought about this, but I think you may have pointed this out. A story from John Gruber a while back. We can only imagine the
Yeah.
headlines if a family of hikers were injured and transpired only to find that they didn't pay for their satellite service on their phone. It's like that is not going to be the kind of press that Apple wants. On the other
Hmm.
hand, Apple can't just say we're going to have it let it be free forever because that's just that would be a little crazy because if they ever
Yeah.
did have to charge for it, then they'd have to go back on their word. I just thought that was a brilliant story. Now that's obviously on the iPhone as well. We're going to get to that in a moment, but I just thought that was interesting with the
Agreed.
watch as well, to
Agreed.
have that access on there. And
Last thing I'll say about
so
the Ultra
yeah,
3 well,
go ahead.
is, there's a couple bit more. I mean, there is the new processor, right? So you have the old Apple Watch Ultra 2
Yeah,
had the S9 the
correct.
S9
Yeah,
processor.
S9. Yep.
And the increase between the S9 and the S10 was actually a pretty noticeable increase. It was a big increase in speed. Now, this year, as we're going to talk about in a
Oh,
second, they've
excellent.
gone from the S10 to the S11, but the S10 and 11 are both the same speed. The only difference is that like it only has connectors on one side of it, so it's better for Apple to put other things
Okay,
inside the watch, but it's not a speed increase. So if you have a Series 10, like what's on my watch from last year, on my hand from last year, if I got a Series 11,
that's
spoiler alert,
amazing.
I'm not,
Yeah.
it would not change the processor. I mean, it's technically a
Yeah.
different processor, but it's not speedier. But you, Brett, if you were to upgrade from an Ultra or someone with an Ultra 2, you would notice a little bit faster processor. And then I guess we should also mention that 5G is in there too. For
I
me,
was just
5G
gonna
versus
ask about that.
LTE,
Yeah.
not a big deal. I guess there might be some circumstances in which you're happy that your watch has 5G and not just LTE, but I don't
Well,
consider that a big deal.
I
But
have to tell you, I was excited about that because I still
okay,
have the
okay.
original Ultra, so that I have an S8, so I'm now thrilled even more so to hear see what I'm going to see on the S10. I felt like I
Mhm.
don't ever feel like my Ultra has been slow or sluggish, but the 5G, I have to say, when I got this Ultra, that is the first time I added a watch to my AT&T plan, and so I've had the cellular plan, and I got to tell you that has come in pretty handy. Even if I'm streaming music, sometimes I've allowed to do that
Mhm.
because if I wanted to leave my phone home and go for a run on the street, I could do that, and the music will still stream, for example, because I didn't want to download it to the watch. Or if I needed to make a phone call while I was out, or if I
Yeah.
wanted to send
But my
text
point's
messages,
different, Brett.
that'll always
My,
work. Yeah.
my point is you have LTE on your watch.
Right?
Having LTE plus 5G on your watch, is that going to be that much of a breaker? Because
Probably not. Yeah.
5G
Yeah.
networks
Yeah.
are not, they're a little bit faster. I don't know if it's going to be that much of a
Yeah.
difference, but I mean, I guess why not? I think that Apple, that's just the radios they had. So why not stick those
Why
Qualcomm,
not? Right.
radios in there?
Right.
So I don't, I seriously doubt someone's going to say, gosh, the number one reason that I'm buying an Apple Watch Ultra 3 is because I don't want just LTE. I also want LTE plus 5G, but whatever.
Right.
That's it. So you
I'm
put
so
all this
excited about the
together.
Ultra. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just to finish up. It's everything. We just said the same thing on the AirPods, right? The AirPod Pro 3 takes
Right.
everything you love about AirPods and makes every part of it better. It sounds better. It's the noise cancellation. It's how it fits. It's the features. And I feel the same way about the Ultra 3.
Yeah.
Nothing is like, oh my God, this is the most incredible thing ever. But everything you love about the Ultra, the battery life, the screen, the durability. We need to talk about that. It's got, everything about it is going to be a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
And
Better.
that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I'm so excited about the Ultra 3. I almost don't even care about the other models that they announced. But there is the Series 11 and the SE, which are
Mhm.
both pretty good as well. Okay, give me your rundown of the
So
Series
we can
11.
do those quickly. The Series 11 from 2025, from this year versus last year's Series 10, they are so close. There's a few
Yeah,
advantages. It does have a little bit longer battery life, which is nice. And we didn't
see
mention
that.
this on the Ultra 3, but so it jumps from 18 hours on a single charge to 24 hours on a single charge. So yeah, that's great. The more battery
That's
life, that's a big
great.
deal. I like it. It's not enough for me to buy something new, but it's a nice one. And we didn't mention this on the Ultra 3, but I like the fact that you can now, if you just have 15 minutes, you can get a ton of charge on the Ultra 3 and also
Oh,
on the Series 10. So 15 minutes will give you like an additional eight
wow.
hours. And if you only have 5 minutes, let's say you're about to go to bed and you want to use your watch for sleep tracking, but it's about to die, right? If you can just find 5 minutes to charge it, 5 minutes, that's it. Put it back on and it will be able to do sleep tracking for 8 hours, which is,
Hmm,
presumably enough time to go to sleep. So
that's
and this is
great.
true about the Ultra 3 and for the Series 11. So those are nice improvements, but that's really about it. There's some other tiny little
That's
things,
it.
that if you get the aluminum version, it's a little bit more durable with the iron glass. It's got that 5G radio instead of just the LTE. But for all intents and purposes, it's not a big incremental change year to year. But what's good about it is progress marches forward. People
Yeah,
wear their Apple Watch for a long time. I mean, I have the 10 now, but I think
indeed.
my previous model was a 7 before that. And I
It
think
was. I
before that, I
remember
had a
that.
4 or
Yes,
5. So that's
7.
the thing.
Yeah.
If you're like most people, you're going to go many years. And so, like, think about if you're listening to this right now, think about what's on your wrist. If you're wearing a 7, an 8, a 6, anything like that, you're going
Definitely
to see
upgrade.
so
Yeah.
many improvements. And those
Yeah.
additional things between the 10 and the 11 are not a huge deal, but like the things between the 9 and the 10, I mean, I love my Series 10. It's got the bigger screen. I mean, I could talk forever about how much I love my Series
Right.
10. And so like you have so much goodness coming to you. And so that's why, you can feel good. Unlike last year where you might not have felt good about getting an Ultra Watch 2 because it was a year old. You can buy a Series 11. You feel good because it's the latest and greatest. It just came out and you get all of those bonuses. So that's my take on the Series 11.
How about the SE3? This is the
Mhm.
budget model.
Yeah. So the SE3, Apple releases them every couple of years. It's been 3 years since they had the SE2.
Oh,
And
three.
so
Okay.
if you
Wow.
buy an SE the year that it comes out, that's a pretty good time to buy it because it's going to be,
Yeah.
got the
Yeah.
latest and greatest. The more that they stick around, the more dated they feel. Okay. And so like before this week, an SE2, I mean, sure, if you needed it for your kids or something like that. I mean, the model starts at $249 with GPS and only $200 if you I think that price is wrong. It's $300 if you have cellular. I'm seeing that
Right.
I got to
Right.
correct my post. But
Yeah.
so it's just a couple $100 for it. And it doesn't, what they do is all the new features come to the series, blank and the ultra. And then eventually they sort of trickle down. And a big one was
Mm-hmm.
always on display, right? So like I look at my daughter's watch. My daughter wears
Yes.
an SE, I think it's the SE2. And normally her display is completely black. And that's just what she's used to it. And then she has to turn it on to see the time. So I love that they've taken that always on Retina
Yeah.
display and they've put it on the SE3 because it's a really
Yeah.
nice feature. It's one of those things that once you, I mean, you know it, Brett, because you have it too. Once you have it, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
that's just the way it should
Gotta
have
have it.
always been. I
Absolutely.
understand the original Apple
Yep.
Watches couldn't do it, but so it's nice to have that. And then likewise, a lot of the sensors, not all of the newest sensors, but it does get some of the new sensors. So if you wanted to check your sleep apnea or your nightly wrist temperature, which is good for ovulation tracking and stuff like that, you can now do that. Now it doesn't have all the sensors. You still can't check your EKG, ECG. You still can't check your heart, the blood oxygen and stuff. But it's got more sensors, and it's a nice. And so if you find yourself saying, or a loved one you're getting a watch for Christmas or
Uh-huh.
Hanukkah, whatever this year, they don't need the latest and greatest, but they just want the basic features. They want, like, if they fall down, I'm getting it from my grandparents, and like how they fall down, and I want it to be able to sense it. All of those features are there. It doesn't have the biggest screen, but it's a nice watch. And so this year, the SE3 is a good buy. 12 months from now, it'll be, an okay buy. And then,
Yeah.
a year later, it
Yeah.
get worse. So I'm glad that Apple's continuing to update it. It's nice to have that full range of, do you want to spend a little bit? Do you want to spend all the way up at the Ultra?
Speaking of sensors, let's just quickly go in. This was something I don't know that I expected or anticipated, but Apple mentioned this several times because at least the Series 11 and the Ultra 3 will get hypertension notifications now for
Yeah, this is
chronic high
awesome.
blood pressure. I know. They even showed like blood vessels, didn't they? They had Dr. Sundai.
Mhm.
She was there like talking about it, and they were like showing how, I mean, they had some really nifty little illustrations on this one too.
Here's what I like the most about this feature is it's not like Apple added a new sensor that senses whether
Okay.
you have chronic high blood pressure. I mean, that would be one thing that like have a cuff around you or whatever. But
Sure,
what
sure.
they did is they've taken the research that they've done and they've correlated data. And this is just, I think it's amazing to me. We've
Oh,
talked in the past about
yeah.
how there's that free app on the iPhone called
The
Research,
study.
and you
Yeah,
can you
research.
can
Yeah.
decide if you want to do it. I've got it right here on my watch, on my phone, all of the tasks and stuff that I can complete. And I just answer questions about it. And the Research Act, it's totally anonymized, so Apple's not going to know who I am, but they can say, here are all the vital statistics that we've gotten from Jeff's Apple Watch for the last year. And here's the questions that he asks, that he answers about conditions he does and doesn't have. And Apple
Yeah.
was able to correlate all of that and say, you know what? For these types of readings, we think a huge percentage of them have hypertension. And so what's going to happen is it's just like sleep
Oh.
apnea. If you get the sleep apnea notification, it doesn't mean 100% that you have sleep apnea, but it means, you
You
might.
should check it.
It's more
Yeah.
like you should check it out. You should, consider changing your
Right.
lifestyle or talking to a doctor.
Right.
And it's the same thing. And I mean, the thing that just made my heart sort of drop is they have the statistics that they say that when they come out with this new feature, based upon what Apple sees. Because like first they did the correlation and then they did a specialized study to confirm and enter what rates. Apple is saying that they believe a 1 million people who wear an Apple Watch
I
and don't
remember
think
that.
that they have hypertension
Yeah.
are going to be
Yeah.
told that they have hypertension. And maybe they don't all have it, but if a big percentage of those go to see their doctor and turns out, I mean, they say hypertension is one of the biggest killers because it's sort of a silent killer, right? You don't know that you have it, and then
Hmm.
suddenly you have all these problems. And so getting people to talk to their primary care physician and get things checked out, this is the sort of thing that a couple years from now, is going to be a future Apple commercial of someone saying that my
Oh,
Apple Watch
yeah.
changed my life, that it saved my
Yeah.
life. So, and the hypertension thing, yes, it's on all the new models, but you don't have to get the new models. It can work on if you have the Apple Watch Ultra 2 or 3, it'll
Okay.
work.
Good. Good.
And if
Good.
you have the series models, it works with, of course, the newest 11, but also last year's 10 and also 2 years ago's 9. Now, if you have
Oh,
a
that's
series 8,
great.
it's not going to work with you, and it's not going to work with the SE models, but a lot of people are going to be able to take advantage of this.
I remember that stat when they shared it, and I was kind of like, "What? Like,
Yeah,
really?" But
crazy.
you're right. I mean, that's just going to be some amazing commercials, and I don't mean that like it just marketing fluff. I mean, it's
No, but it's true.
truly
Yeah.
going to make a big difference on there. And then the last thing quickly, and we can move on, is this sleep score. So we've talked many times about how I very much enjoy wearing my Apple Watch overnight because I have the Ultra, so it works. The battery life stays on, and every morning I will check sort of my sleep summary. I think it's called a summary now because it tells me how much time is in core sleep, how much time in REM sleep, and how much time in deep sleep. And I have seen a correlation every morning, for the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 years in tracking this, that I can, it's like, okay, well, maybe I had too much alcohol the night before. I stayed up too late and didn't get as much. And, I'm dragging a little bit. Oh, I didn't get enough deep. I have come to rely on that almost every morning. I'm a little leery about this sleep score. Here's a picture of what it's going to look like. Here in one of these images here. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of the same information, but just so that people know, first, it's going to change a little bit, but second, it's still going to be great. Like I still believe it's going to be fantastic, and you could probably get to a lot of that same kind of information that I was discussing. It's just going to be shown, illustrated a little bit different, like these little different colors on there. But and then I guess I'm going to have a score, like you have to like I'm in grade school getting graded for how I slept. But I still think that's a good thing. I mean, and they doubled down on that. They talked about that quite a bit. The Dr. Sundal was talking about that as well, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be presented to you in a way that's easier for people to comprehend. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Okay, well, let's get to the big show then.
Hmm.
And this would be the iPhone. And we'll close out with this, even though, my goodness, this was probably they spent the most time on this. Um, it was sort of the expectation is certainly with the Air, but let's start with the iPhone 17 nothing. The vanilla iPhone, as it were, because I think we all anticipated this. We had the 16 and 16 Pro a year ago, so now we have the 17 and the 17 Pro. And the 17, I feel like we could almost say ditto for some of the things you were just talking about, upgrading from a Apple Watch Series 9 or 10 to 11. I don't know that there's quite enough, although once again, it's better, it's faster, better cameras, better screen, which is the same story that we hear every year, which is not a bad thing. It's just what we expect.
Yeah. So last year, the entry-level iPhone 17 came in the regular and the Plus model. This year, I'm sorry, the 16.
The 16.
This year,
Yep.
the 17, there is no Plus model because, as we're about to say, they instead have the Air. And so what they've
Aha.
done is they've taken the regular 17 and made it just a tiny bit bigger a screen. It goes from 6.1 to 6.3 inches. But that's not really the thing is, the big changes, I think, is probably the selfie camera. And I cannot believe I'm
Yeah.
talking about a selfie camera because, when I think of selfies, all I think about is teenagers taking a million pictures of themselves.
Right.
But I will tell this, Apple realizes that, the selfie camera can be
This
really
is good.
useful. And they came up with a pretty ingenious way of making it better because the selfie camera is a much higher quality camera. It's 48 megapixels instead of, I think it was 12 before. But it's now a square. And you're like, oh, why is it a square? Is it taking square pictures? No, it's being smart about that square. So like if
Yeah.
you're holding your camera up, because it's much easier to do a selfie when you're holding your camera up in portrait orientation than holding it like this. But with the new
Yes.
ones, you can hold it in portrait orientation and it will sense that you're there in the center. But then if somebody comes next to you or maybe two people come next to you and it senses, you know what, this would be a better landscape picture. You don't have to move your camera. It just,
Yeah.
because it's got a square image, it can just crop it to be a landscape picture. And this is that technology that they have that's called center stage, which we've seen on the computer
Right.
for a while. We've
And the
seen on the
iPad.
iPad,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
but I sort of feel like this is where it was always meant to be. Because
What? Yeah.
you're just holding your iPhone there and it's automatically adjusting. You don't have to do that little back and forth and back. You just hold it up there and it figures out where it needs to be to get everybody in the picture. I think it's going to be really cool. I think that's a nice
When
feature
I
and gives a lot of legitimacy to front-facing camera.
when I saw this, I knew this was going to be the biggest thing that's probably going to get my daughter to insist that she
Mm.
needs a new iPhone 17, because not only will it sense and kind of go from the portrait, the long phone picture like we're all familiar with, it'll go to that landscape. You can manually tap it. I think there's like two little arrows, that you can tap it out. So you can
Mhm.
manually go from the portrait mode into that landscape mode without having to turn the phone. I mean, that is
Yeah.
just a little
Yeah.
mind blowing. And just like you said, totally agree. I mean, that to me is um, where it should have always been. Like that's exactly what some of this technology should have been using for, which is great. But that's not all that they did with the front-facing camera either, Jeff.
What else?
They gave you the ability, which in the past you had to have a special app for a lot of this, that you could have
Oh, I
both
know
the
where you're going.
back
Okay.
camera and the front camera recording at the same time. Now, as I said, this isn't brand new. Like I remember I used to get an app that could
Mhm.
record both the front facing camera and the back camera. So they had a very nice video in there that showed this. It was somebody in the stands at a basketball game recording what was happening out of the court, but they were also recording their reaction to what was happening on the court at the same time. I mean, I can't wait for some of the YouTube shorts and Instagram pics that are going to come out with this. But I mean, that's very cool on how you can record both of the cameras at the same time in video.
Yeah, it is very, very cool. So that's going to be a neat feature. One other thing about the cameras too is, that the entry level iPhone, it has the two cameras on the back. It doesn't have the three different lenses like the Pro does.
Right. Yeah, here they
But
are.
for those
Yeah.
two, the ultra wide one is a better camera. So it used to be that the regular one was 48 megapixels and the ultra wide was 12. Now the ultra wide is also 48. But rather than talk about that in the context of the 17, I'm going to wait till we get to the Pro to talk about some of the implications of that.
Okay.
But you put it all together, and I mean it's a very nice entry level iPhone, right? It's going to have some cool camera trips. People love the camera. We didn't even mention it's got better battery life, just like Apple's bringing to the Apple Watches better battery life. It's got a nicer screen. We didn't talk about that ProMotion and stuff. Things that used to be in the Pro
Yeah, that's
model. This is
true.
what happens over
Yeah.
time. Apple has these great features in the Pro model, and then they bring down the always on screen, the ProMotion, which means it's smoother graphics and stuff like that. It's just it's a nicer iPhone 17. It's in some ways it reminds me of the Apple Watch Series 11. It's just a little bit of a step up.
Yeah.
And if it's your
Yeah.
time to get a new iPhone, this is the one to get. It's for an entry level model. It's nice. And I say entry level, this is not the very cheap one, the E model, whatever they come out with on the off on in the spring. But this is a solid brand new iPhone. It's going to be perfect for holiday presents this year. That's that. So that's the iPhone 17.
There were two other phones that they talked about. The iPhone Pro, which we expected, the iPhone 17 Pro,
Mhm.
and brand new. Do you want to go there next? The
Let's see there
iPhone
next.
Air with no numerals. It's just the Air, no numerals at all, which is a little weird. And people, I've already seen videos kind of tripping up on this. The iPhone Air, thinner than life. I love this.
So in the past, when Apple has wanted something that wasn't a Pro, but was a little different from the entry level model, what do they sell? There was years ago, they used to have the mini because they're like, hey, maybe people want a really
Hmm.
small phone, and they've
Small one.
stopped making
Yep.
that. And then for the last couple of years, they've had the Plus because they thought, hey, what maybe people want is a bigger screen, but not all of the Pro features. And some people
Right.
got the Plus. But this year they decided, you know what, we're going to do that sort of in-between market with the thinnest iPhone ever. And when you look at the pictures of
Ever.
this, it is like, I mean, I can't wait to hold one in my hand in a
I
store,
can't
but
either.
like it is really thin. Now, does it matter that it's really thin? I mean, the thing is, that's just a personal choice. I mean, for you, you might want
Yeah.
something that's super light, that it feels slick, it feels thin. I mean, on the one hand, it's like it's just cosmetic, but on the other hand, cosmetic's important. I mean, the reason that I've always gotten the more expensive version of the Apple Watch that used to have stainless steel, and now I have the one with the polished titanium, is I just like it better. I mean, it's not a tangible thing. It just makes me happier. And the same
Yeah.
thing with this Air is it's just going to feel unlike any other iPhone you've ever held in your hand before. It's
Exactly.
incredibly thin. That is just really cool. And one of the ways they did it, it's very clever. The picture you're showing right now has what I
Yes,
used to always
exactly.
call the camera bump. And this year,
The
of course,
bump,
Apple's calling it the plateau. It's the
the
camera plateau.
plateau.
But if you look at like sort of Apple has released an image that's
Brilliant.
like the 3D thing, that plateau, of course, it houses the cameras, right? But it's just one camera, by the way. They don't have two on this. It's just a single camera.
Right.
But they've also basically stuck all the other guts of the iPhone up there. And that's one of the reasons it can be so thin. The entire body of the iPhone basically just has to have a little bit of battery and the screen. And the electronic stuff, they could just shove it all in that plateau. So you get to feel something that's really, and I say shove it, believe me, they
Right.
carefully arrange it. It looks beautiful
Oh
inside of
yeah.
there. So it's just a very clever way of coming up with a thin design. And
Is it,
it's also
so that's the thing. When I see this, Jeff, it is thin. It's 5.6 millimeters thin. It's
thinnest
amazing. It's
iPhone
thin
ever. Thinnest iPhone ever.
until you get to the top. and then it's like
Yeah.
3 times as thick as
Yeah.
that. I mean, the
But you know, we're
plateau,
used to that.
what a
We've for a
brilliant,
long time
yeah,
now, we've had our cameras stick out a little
I
bit and we're
know,
used to
I
that.
agree.
So,
But this is so much more prevalent, I feel, because that's how they got the thinness, is because they did stick everything in there. So I mean, I'm with you. I think it was brilliant. I mean, calling it the plateau was a brilliant but ridiculous marketing move, but more so brilliant. Just because it's like, how can we make lemonade out of this? But I mean,
mhm.
it is thin, it is amazing, but I just feel like it's a little top heavy. It looks
Yeah.
top heavy, and I want to go into a store and pick it up because I did not go for this model for multiple reasons, but it is just amazing. I mean, just the feat of engineering, literally, that went into something like this, and the fact that
Yeah.
it's even a titanium frame. I even have seen stories where people are saying, will it bend? I mean, I feel like it's like bend it like Apple on this. It's like that's what people want to know. Can you bend this thing? Is it going to bend? What's it going to be like when it's in your back pocket and you're carrying it around? There's a lot of
Mhm.
things that go on this, but overall, I'm so very impressed with it, and it is quite impressive.
I think the two things that people would be concerned about for a phone this thin is durability, which you just referred to, and battery
Right,
life. And just to address those, for durability, as you said, it has titanium, which is incredibly strong. We've seen titanium in many other products from Apple. And it also uses a ceramic shield technology, which is their fancy name for the stuff that they get from Corning, both on the front and
right,
the back. So it's protected, it's strong as they can make it. I mean, they know that people are going to be worried about, gosh, is this going to be too delicate? And they're trying to
right,
address it. Now,
right.
we'll see once it's out there in the real world. Did they do enough?
Hmm.
We'll find out. The reviews will come out. So that's one thing. The other thing people are concerned about, of course, is if it's so darn thin, the battery life is going to be horrible. And you talk about, were we surprised by anything from Tuesday's announcements? I'll tell you something I was surprised about. When they said that the battery life on this thing is almost as good as the entry level iPhone. I mean,
Yeah,
for example, they say for if you play back video, which is like one of the longest tests, so the Apple has to use that one. With the iPhone 17, you get 30 hours straight of playback. But the iPhone Air is 27. 27 versus 30. That's not a
incredible.
very big difference. And some things are going to use battery life more than others. But I'm like,
Yep.
they were able to do I mean, this is incredible. Like, bravo, bravo. Whoever at
Yeah.
Apple found a way to have this, because if they had come out and said the iPhone Air is the thinnest iPhone ever, but it has half the battery life, I would have said, okay, yeah, that's the trade-off. But they didn't. They said that it's got like almost all the battery life. And then what makes it even better is, what if most of the time you're fine with the battery life it has and it's thin, but you know what? I'm going to go, film my kids on stage at their school in a play, and I want to make sure I've got a little extra a little extra power. Apple
Yeah.
brought back the MagSafe battery that you and I love. It's a
Only
special
for the
version of
air.
it. It only works on the Air. It won't fit on the other iPhones because
Crazy.
the other iPhones, the plateau is too big, so it won't. It's the battery itself is too tall to fit on it. But if you slap this on the back, and it's also thinner, the one that you and I have, so it's a thinner
Yes,
version
it
of it.
is.
You
Yeah.
slap it on the back, and suddenly the iPhone Air with this on the back is now the iPhone with more battery power than any other model. Now, admittedly, it's thicker too because of this, but the thing is, you don't need to keep it on there all the time. So it's like it's like a transformer. It's the best of worlds. Most of the time, you have a thin iPhone. The few times you want some extra power, no, you have to pay extra. It's like $100. But if you
Yep.
buy this extra battery, the few times that you think you need that extra power, the extra battery life, just plop it on there and you're good to go. And it just sticks on magnetically, and then you're done. You take it off and you're done. So I'm like,
I still have my MagSafe. I still use it.
this
The
is
old
just the way
one.
to go. So I think what they did with the Air, I think it's truly impressive. Really good job, Apple.
I,
This is
I
very
gotta tell you,
nice.
I feel like they may have been even able to go thinner, except for you still gotta have buttons on the side, and I don't know how
Hmm.
thin you can get those. And there is a USB-C connector down at the bottom,
Yeah,
and I feel like that still is one of the things. In fact, I saw a story where this is 3D
me
printed
too.
titanium,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
so it's like they had to be a little uh uh good at being able to make this so that USB-C connector is so small. Anyway, just thought that was that was interesting on how they're going. And then last thing quickly, I just want to point out from a pure technical perspective, they mention this, but they don't dwell on it because it doesn't really play well. The new chips that they're putting in these, Jeff, like there's an N1 chip. So we talk about the A19, right? There is the N1 chip, which I think is for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and then
Correct.
the modem that Apple is coming out with, not the
Hmm.
Qualcomm Broadcom modems that they used to have, but Apple has even improved. I guess it was not even a year ago when they came out with the C1. They now have the C1X, which is the modem for like cellular calls. They've improved that, which also helps with some of the battery life on here too.
Yeah. Apple wants to get to the point where all of the important stuff inside, they make it themselves. So
All the
years ago,
guts.
they came
Yeah.
out with the A processors, and of course in the Macs, the M processors. And we know that, I mean, that's completely transformed the Macintosh line, right? That's been huge. And then earlier
Absolutely.
this year in February, Apple came out with the 16E, which is the real budget version of the iPhone that they come out with in the spring. We'll see if one comes out in spring 2026. And that was the first time they put their own modem in it, the C1. The reviews were pretty good. They said the C1 does work. And so now they have the C1X for the Air. And I think they're just slowly but surely moving
Oh
towards the
yeah.
point where they're going to have their own stuff for modems. They're going to have their own stuff for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, which is the N1. They're going to be more battery effective. And, this makes good sense because Apple has been having to buy, Broadcom has made the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, and Qualcomm has made the modems. And, Apple just
Yeah.
has to buy whatever Broadcom and whatever those companies make. So like if
Right.
Qualcomm puts a
Right.
feature in there that Apple doesn't want, too bad, that's the one you have. But now
Yeah.
Apple can say, no, this is exactly, we want it to have this power, but we really want it to be efficient because we're going to put this in a thin phone and efficiency matters to us. And so they don't have to worry. Like when you design your own stuff, which is a luxury to be able to do it, it's the best for you. And we will know that Apple has come all around when they have the Apple created modem and the Apple created Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip
Yes.
in the Pro model. Well, then you're going to say done, now, and of course they're
Yeah.
going to improve it over
Done.
time, but we're slowly seeing it. It's taken a couple of years, but I do think it's fascinating.
Anything else on the air? I mean,
Let's go
so
to the
much of this,
Pro.
I feel like
Yeah.
we have to see it in the wild. We got to see what people are doing with it. I mean, because this is a brand new chassis. This is like so different in the way that they're
Hmm.
coming out of this, and I'm excited about it. I mean, I just love seeing sort of the idea and what was Jaws talking about. This is like the essence of design, but kind of getting the technology out of the way, and that's sort of
Yeah,
always what Apple has kind of focused on. And I am
absolutely.
very, very excited about it. I'm excited to see where that's going to go and if they keep it. Because just like you said, we used to have the mini, we don't have the mini anymore, and we don't have the plus anymore. So just interesting to see how Apple has kind of fluctuated with played with phone sizes all these years. But one thing that we figured was probably going to come out is the Pro models of iPhone 17. And I got to tell you, right off the bat, I mean, we didn't know. Like, I remember we talked about, we thought the cameras were going to be all along the top, all along the edge up there. I still feel like this is a neat design transition here. Like, I really
Hmm.
enjoy looking at it. Not to mention, it's in bright orange. So that's something too.
There will be some people that will say it's orange, sold, I'm done. I don't care about the other features. I'm not one of
Pretty
those. I'm
much.
not necessarily a fan of orange myself, but some people are going there. But this is an exciting phone. It really is. It's a brand new design. And what is the Pro all about? We've talked about before, what is the Apple Watch Ultra all about? The iPhone Pro, you want the most powerful. I want the best pictures. I want the most power. I want to be able to do the most with it. And so that's what Apple has addressed. One thing I've noticed with my current iPhone, which I love my current Pro, my Pro Max,
Mm-hmm.
but when I do things that are really processor intensive, it heats up. It's hot. And I don't
It's
wear
a
a
little
case.
warm.
And because I don't have a case, in some ways that should make it better because the heat can dissipate more. And yet I'm feeling that heat in my hand. And so Apple has said, you know what? We could make this thing do more if we have a new case design. Now it's aluminum, not titanium. And for years, Apple has told us that titanium is better than aluminum. But here's an instance where I think they decided that aluminum makes more sense because first of all, they can make like this
Yeah.
unibody. It's all they have this on the MacBook Air nowadays too. It's just one design. Like you look at the entire case, it's all one big piece of aluminum, which means that the heat can be dissipated throughout the aluminum better. So it's going to be better for
Yeah.
that. It also makes it a lot more durable because it's just one design that can be held together to be really, really
Okay.
strong.
Okay.
So I think this is, and it also looks cool, whatever. That's just a
It
beauty is in the
does.
eye of the beholder. But I think it looks really distinctive. That picture you just showed is a perfect one because it's like you can see
Yeah.
it's the
Right.
whole thing, and then they just add a few more things onto it. So it's more durable. It's going to be better for power. I think it's awesome.
I'm excited about this because I'm still rocking the 15 Pro, and one of the things that I got excited about this, Jeff, if you recall,
Hmm.
is titanium. In fact, I
Hmm.
got it, I think, at the same time that I got, well, a year after I got my Apple Ultra, which was titanium. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to match. But I was enthralled with the titanium aspect because that's when Apple went from aluminum to titanium. And I
Hmm.
think they stayed titanium on the 16 Pro. Am I correct? Or did they go
Hmm.
aluminum? And then
Yeah.
now they're going back to aluminum on this. And I'm just, hearing you talk about it makes me feel a little bit better. But
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's not
really?
back to
Like,
aluminum. They it's a better use of aluminum. Like
okay,
titanium's great
okay,
if
I'll
it's going to
take
be the
that.
same thing, but they just I feel like they couldn't do in titanium. That's my guess at least. What they can do with aluminum here in terms of the heat dissipation and this durability. And so,
Yeah,
plus
yeah,
this also has some of those same tricks with the ceramic shield that we talked about before on the front of the back to make it, more scratch resistant. So this is good. And of course, it's got the new processor too. So it's got a new processor. It's going to run faster. You can do more. That's all good
yeah.
stuff. But one more thing before I move on from the design. This thing, you know how way back in the day, people that had like a make your own gaming PC, what would they do to try to keep it as cool as possible when you're overclocking it? They would put water. It would say like, "Hey, we've got water in the
Uh-huh.
PC." We actually have vapor. Apple is taking what how did they describe it? It's some sort of
Here
like
it is.
ionized water
Vapor
that
cooled.
is
Yeah.
is
What?
infused in it to help keep it cooler. I'm like, give me a break. My iPhone's got water inside of it.
Uh,
Hey, maybe if I bring it in and I say the water inside of it, that wasn't me leaving it in the rain. That was your fault, Apple. Your water leaked out, not mine. I don't know. So
they
anyway,
call it a vapor chamber. There's a
a
vapor
vapor
chamber in
chamber.
your phone.
I love
That's
it.
a little incredible. I mean, I just want to watch this video over and over, and I want to imagine like vapor flowing in the guts of my iPhone, which is going to be pretty cool. But I'm
Yeah.
again, all of that to say, and like you're right. I mean, I like this picture right here because I can see how much more durable it is because it is sort of, I guess, 3D printed or cut from this aluminum side. They went to
Hmm.
pains to show some of those videos on there on how they're getting that to be as precise as possible on that. So
Yeah.
cool design. I'm excited. It comes in bright orange. It comes in silver, and then I forget what kind of a blue that they call it, but it's a
Deep
pretty
blue, I think.
striking blue, deep blue.
Deep blue.
Those are the
Yeah.
three colors you get, which I got to tell you is exciting because so many of us have had to live with either the black, the space gray, or the
Hmm.
silver for a long time. So I like to see a little pop of color in there.
Yeah. The other feature that I'm very excited about is I use my iPhone as a camera so much. I mean, this is my camera.
Hmm.
I love taking pictures, and I want variety. But I want to be able to take a really ultra wide picture, the 0.5, which I can do now. I might want a 1x picture. I might want a 2x. My current iPhone can go up to 5x, which is nice. I mean, I'm sitting here in my office. If I see something off in the distance, the Mississippi River Bridge over there, I could zoom in 5x, and that's really nice.
It's very
The
good.
new phone goes up to 8x. But what's interesting to me is not the number, but how they get there. This is just, I think it's fascinating. And so what Apple has done is my current 5x camera is let me see if I have this right. It's a 12 megapixel 5x camera. Okay.
Okay.
That's what I have right now. What Apple is putting on the new models, it's a 4x camera. And you might say, wait a minute, Jeff has a 5 and they're going down to a 4. That sounds worse, but it's not. And the reason it's not is because my camera is 12 megapixel. The new one is 48 megapixel. Now, what does that mean? It means a lot more dots, right? A lot more dots squeezed together. And what can Apple do with it? If you're taking a 4x picture with this new iPhone, it's going to be because it's using 48 megapixels and it can sample those down to 24. It can be like a much better picture at 4x than you could ever take with my current iPhone. Or what they
Nice.
can do is they can crop into the middle of it. If you imagine there's a square in the middle of this 4x camera and you crop into the middle of it, well, then that is essentially an 8x thing. And you may say, wait a minute, that's not fair because that's a software thing. But no. I mean, that's not actually an optical thing, but it actually is because the part, if you're focusing just on the center of it, that is 12 of those 48 megapixels. And for those 12 megapixels, it's 8x. It's an 8x zoom. So whereas my current phone, the whole darn thing is 12 megapixels for the 5x zoom, for this model, you still get if you're going to go all the way in to, and when you zoom all the way in, things will be not quite as pristine and sharp, but you're going to still get a 12 megapixel image. So it's using the same camera. I mean, the same actual, thing in the back of the
Incredible.
phone,
Yeah.
but they're using it in two different ways. And I've already heard some people say, "Oh, that's not fair," because when you say 8x, people assume it's a different, I want to have 8 different cameras. No, no, no. But this is just a clever, Apple had different ways they could have come up with 8x, and this is the way that they have done it. And again, we will see, the proof will be in the pudding when we actually try it out and compare the pictures. But I think the way that they've done it is fair and compelling. And I will tell you, being able to go in 8x, it is substantial. I mean, Apple showed some little examples and stuff, and they have some on their
Yeah.
website where, like, if you start from 0.5x, which is a really wide thing, and you zoom from there all the way to 8, that's actually a 16, time magnification, right? You're going from
Right.
0.5 to 8, that's
Right.
16 times. That is a huge, which means that you have so much flexibility in framing your pictures. Do you want to get really, really, really close? Do you want to get really far away? This is the picture I was
Yeah.
talking about right there. Do you want
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
between? It is just every one of those. If you click on this page where they have the woman in the red dress, every one of those pictures has a different feel to it. It's literally a different type of picture
It's
that
amazing. Yeah.
conveys something differently
Wow. Look at
depending
that.
upon how far you get. And then of course you also have the macro camera if you want to get really, really close. So,
Right.
Apple, this is why there was a time way back when like I really loved my Nikon DSLR camera, and if I wanted to take
Uh-huh.
better pictures, I would have to spend, hundreds of dollars, if not more, on better lenses. I would take off a lens and put on a new lens. But what Apple is saying is, yeah, the lenses are part of it, and we are improving the lenses, but we're also doing software improvements, and you put it all
Yeah.
together, and the
Yeah.
sum is better than its parts. So that's why I'm really excited about this.
Very, very cool. What else on the pro models? I mean, honestly, I think just some of those
Mhm.
photography aspects is the selfie camera comes in that we were just talking about that comes in
Same
the pro
selfie
model.
camera,
The fact
better
that you can
battery
record both
life,
yeah, better
do some of
better
those faster
screen, the
recharge of
ceramic
things.
yeah, the
Yeah.
ceramic shield comes on there. I mean, I feel like
Mm.
it just take obviously the Pro is the marquee model, right? Everything that you are going to be expecting with
Mhm.
betterness and fasterness, everything else like that, I think is just
More,
gonna
more,
be
more memory too,
really
Brett.
good.
You can also have more memory. Apple's not given the number, but I think they've hinted that they don't like to advertise on their website, but I think the current
Yeah,
Pro model is 8 and this new one's gonna be 12. And memory is gonna be important, first of all, for that Apple Intelligence stuff that they didn't focus on too much, but it's gonna be key in the future to have additional memory. If you want to have tons of browser tabs open in Safari, if you want to do lots of different tasks, having more memory is always really nice. And I'm sure it's going to make the iPhone feel better. So, you put all of this together, and I think that this, last year's Pro was really good. This year's Pro is really good. And if you're gonna, for people that are upgrading because they haven't upgraded in like 2 or 3 years, and just like I said on the Apple Watch, they're gonna just see so much. So,
yeah.
I when Apple was done with the presentation on iPhones, I am like, this is nice. The 17 is really good. The Air is incredible. Amazing design. And even though I don't think it's for me, I really love that it's out there. People are going to love that Air. They're going to sell them. I predict that it's going to be an
I do too.
incredibly
Yeah,
popular thing. And it's going to be
yeah.
so noticeable. When you see them out and about, you're going to know what they are. And then the Pro model, it's a really nice upgrade. And for the people that get the Orange Pro, you'll definitely see
You're
those
gonna
when you're out and
know.
about because it's
You know,
orange and it looks unlike anything else.
just real quick, I can't get over these little logos here. Like the air,
I
like
love
you
that.
see where it's AIR. I do too. But I don't remember that they've ever used this bold font like this for a pro. Like
Well,
if you
orange is a
click
bold
into this
color.
page, when you click into this page, like that PRO is just a weird font that I don't know that I've ever seen Apple use something like that. I like it. It's just look, it's a little odd. Like I can't get over it. Okay, let's end out doing it this because we're going to be able to talk about the iPhone 17 Pro quite a bit. Um, Before we get into what we got on the iPhone side, I was remiss to say that I did decide to upgrade to the Apple Watch Ultra 3. So I was able to pre-order both the AirPods Pro 3 and the Apple Watch Ultra 3. I got it in black because I haven't had a chance to have black. I'm very excited about that. So
That looks
which
really
watch
nice. I think
did
you're
you
gonna like the black
I
one.
know.
Yeah.
Which watch did you get, Jeff? Which did you pre-order?
I did not. So I'm going to stick with my current Series
Okay.
10 and I'm happy with it. And believe me, I love the Series 10 and I'm thrilled for the people getting a Series 11 because they're going to gain a lot of the features that I've
Yeah.
had with the Series 10. So just because I'm not getting one doesn't mean I'm not really impressed with the lineup because I am.
You have already showed your hand on the iPhone 17 Pro. I think you ended this
Yeah, the
amazing
Pro
little
Max.
review
Yeah.
here that you have been purchasing black iPhones since 2008. And for the first time, Jeff is going to have a little bit of color in his life. You're going to get the cosmic orange,
No,
which is going to be
no,
great.
no,
No?
no, no.
Okay.
I'm getting the deep blue.
The
I don't want
deep
my iPhone
blue.
to stand out that much. I mean, if I'm using it. And so, and you know, the funny thing is Apple's website, the deep blue actually looks, yeah, it looks sort of blue. I wonder in real life if, you know, sometimes those dark blues look a lot like black. So I suspect that
Yeah.
this is going to be the model. This is
Yeah.
the, so if you just want the dark model, which is what I wanted, I think I'm going to be happy with the deep blue. I mean, I am excited that it's going to be a little different from dark black, but I didn't really want the silver. I've never gotten a white phone or a silver phone. And so I'm excited about this. So I like the
Yeah.
deep blue. I got the Pro Max. You know, when I made the switch to the
That's
Max
right. You got the
size years
Max.
ago,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is crazy. It's too big. But I got, not only did I got used to it, but now I appreciate it. I like having that extra screen space. I like things being a little bit bigger. And then the last one for me, Brett, was the size. I had been using for the last few years a 512 gigabyte model, and I decided to go up to 1 terabyte because
Oh, you
although
did.
I'm
Okay.
not using 100% of my 512, I'm using a
Yeah.
lot of it. I'm getting there. And I actually have some things I'm working on with video that it's going to be the subject of a future post on iPhone JD. I've only started writing it. That this will be something we'll talk about in the future. But I see a future in which I'm having even more video on my phone. And I just think it's going to be nicer. If I know that if I go to 1 terabyte, I'm just going to throw everything I want on there and I'm not going to have to worry about it.
Yeah.
It's just going to all be there. So now I will mention that if you get the Pro Max for the first time ever, Apple is actually selling a 2 terabyte model, which is like a
Yep. I saw
$2,000
that.
iPhone. Can you imagine spending
Did
$2,000
not
for an
get.
iPhone? It's
That's
getting people used to
crazy.
that because if they do come up with a folding iPhone next year, that might
It'll
be expensive
happen.
too. But so for 2 terabyte, I mean, I think you've got to be somebody that's using your iPhone to be recording video to make commercials and stuff like that for that to be you. But 1 terabyte is going to be extravagant for me. But if I was already at the 512, it was an extra $200, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for it,
Mm.
and I'll probably just stay at that 1 terabyte size for the next few years. And I think I'm happy I did. I have no regrets. I think it's going to be the right thing. And you know, at what point will I actually cross over 512 and then start to think now I'm going to have extra space? And then when will I get really over it? And then like, wow, now I'm really
Right.
glad I have it. So, or maybe I won't use it at all, and I'm throwing away $200 to Apple. Who knows? I think I'm going to like it though.
I was tempted at the 1 terabyte, but I did stay at the 512 for me, and I will be that guy
You'll
with
be
the
the orange
cosmic
one.
orange. I'll
Okay,
be
well,
the orange. I
let me
I
know
just
when you show
couldn't
it on the podcast. I'll
I
put my
couldn't
sunglasses
stop. Oh
on.
yeah, I know. And I didn't get a case. I mean, this might be the first like pure caseless iPhone. I don't think so because even saying it, I'm kind of like it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. I have to see if that
Yeah.
really works because I
Apple
can't
does have the new
stand.
cases, right? They've got the tech
I
woven instead of
know
the fine
I
woven. We'll see
didn't
what those
get
feel like.
the tech
I didn't get
woven
it either.
crazy. Okay,
We'll see.
well, all that to say, we have so much that we are going to be able to talk about. Now, we've already made the pre orders for these devices. And so theoretically, we should have our deliveries on the 19th. Actually, I'm going to be out of town on the 19th. I can't believe this.
Oh,
So you may get it. We can look at your stuff, and I'll have to open mine, and we can talk about it maybe the next week on
yeah.
some of that. But lots of good stuff. Thanks for joining us on this kind of a special edition of In the News because we just wanted to cover everything that we have been talking about. Make sure that we have Jeff's links for his fantastic reviews, and you'll probably brighten up about the AirPods 3. I'm going to guess pretty soon too, Jeff. Right? So
Indeed.
we'll put the links in there as well. And whoa, so fun. We'll talk with you next week, Jeff.
Thanks, Brett. Bye bye, everybody.